start? Okay. Thank you very much for attending my session. This is an English session, and about how integrate bot and IE in your SharePoint environment. So this is an introduction session. We covered some introduction aspect of bot and IE services and how integrate this bot and IE in SharePoint. I'm Fabio Franzini. I'm Office Saturday Service MVP. I'm from Italy, and in this slide you have my reference, so my blog and my Twitter account. If you want to follow me on Twitter. We have to thank you very much for our sponsor that make this conference possible. And this is the agenda. So, firstly, we cover a short introduction to Microsoft IE services. Then we explore some cognitive service, and then we cover about bot and Azure bot service with some demos. I have two demos. One of my demo work, and the second demo don't work. So, I show you the code and a short video of the functionality of this bot. Okay, introduction. One question: how many developers are here now? Developers. Okay. And okay. So Microsoft have some IE services built on Azure. Some IE services that cover different topics. Bot framework is an IE service that is used to build conversation IE. So if you want to create a conversational UI and service that understand what user write in a chat, for example, you are able to use bot framework. Another kind of services is cognitive services. Cognitive services is a pre-built services for understand something, like analyze images, analyze text, and extract some information. And then we have Azure Machine Learning. Azure Machine Learning is a very complex services and frameworks for creating your model. So if you want to analyze some data with your model, you have to use Azure Machine Learning, because cognitive service have a pre-built model to understand something, like recognize object in a video or in a photo, or extract tags from text, or understand the speech and translate to the text. In this session, we talk about the cognitive service and then the bot framework. So, firstly, we talk about the cognitive service. How many people has worked with cognitive service as player? Okay. 2, 3. Okay. So, what is cognitive service? Cognitive service is a set of API and SDK that help developers to make your application more intelligent. This is a great set of API. And we have a very big set of API. These API or services are divided by vision, language, speech, search, and knowledge category. This is the full list of cognitive services that we able to use. So for vision, computer vision, face recognition, content moderator, emotion, video, custom vision, video and index. So for language, translation, text, Bing spell check, Lewis language understanding. This is a great service in combo with the bot framework, because it is a very powerful service that able to understand what people write. Text analytics. In my demo, I show how to use text analytic in combination of SharePoint. So linguistic analytics. So for speech, Bing speech, translator speech, speaker recognition, and custom speech for custom model. For search, you are able to create your custom search, okay, based on the Bing technology, for creating image search, news search, video search, web search, and entity search. And for knowledge, you are able to use these services for create a recommendation, for create the custom decision or a question and answer maker. Question and answer maker is a pre-built service that you use to create a FAQ service, FIQ. If, for example, if you want to create a bot using the Q&A maker, you are able to create a bot that understands what the user writes and respond to appropriate response. I'll show a little example of Q&A maker. So, I have some demo about cognitive service. The demo is based on the official website of cognitive services. This is the categorized services about vision, knowledge, language, speech, and search. For example, if you want to test the vision service, we have some demos like OCR, optical character recognition. Okay, this is very, very powerful. This is an image of the people write something, this image, and the service are able to understand the handwrite words, like sorry, have a nice day, oops, see you soon, bye. Or if you change image, okay, this service are able to understand what is right on this image. So if you have tried the Bing translator on your cell phone, and one of option are take a photo. Okay. For example, if you go to China or Japan, you're not able to understand Chinese or Japan. If you take a photo of the something like this image, Bing translator using this service to translate an image to text and then translate the text to your language. Okay. Another kind of example is face recognition. Is incredible. These services are able to detect the face on a photo, like auto-tagging Facebook, for example, and extract some information like this woman glasses, the emotion is happiness, the age, the gender, okay. The same for another images. I don't know if you want to use this service in SharePoint, but it's a powerful service for analyze images. So, video index, yes, or for example, language. Okay, language. This is another demo. In this demo, this service are able to detect the language of the sentence, extrapolate some tags from the text, and evaluate the sentiment of this sentence. Is in preview the linked entities. For example, in this sentence, we have Seattle and Space Needle. This service are able to understand the Seattle and the Space Needle, and then they create a link to the Wikipedia for navigate to Space Needle or Seattle page in Wikipedia to understand more deeply what is Seattle and Space Needle. It's work in English, in Spanish, or in other language. It's very powerful. These kind of services are based on the REST API, okay? But we have a SDK for C#, for .NET, for example, that are more simple to use when you build your .NET code. Okay, but is a REST API that is authenticated REST API that you able to call, and then the results are in JSON. Another example is this. For the spell check. In this sentence, we have this word is wrong. This suggestion is there, for example. Another demo is this. So this is Luis. Is a complex service, configurable complex service, that are able to create a model in a simple way to create some scenario and entity on scenario. For example, this is a sentence. Turn the right light on, and the Luis are able to understand this sentence. Okay, create the intent. Turn it on. Okay, is the intent on these entities. Right, type light, and another topic with a score. With a score. When you create a bot, for example, that want to understand the sentence that the user write on the bot, this is the powerful way to do this, because it's a service that able to understand the real language of the human. Okay, you have to create a lot of intent and entities on this intent, but the service analyze the sentence and extrapolate intent and entities. Okay? Okay. There are a lot of another services, speech, search, knowledge, but no time to review all. Okay. I focus on the text analytics API. This is some slide with some code to understand how we can use the text analytics API in C#. So this service is for detect language, sentiment, and key phrases. For using text analytics API, you must have the Cognitive Service API account with Text Analytics API your Azure subscription. Then you have to add the NuGet package, Microsoft Azure Cognitive Services language. Is in pre-release. You have to flag in Visual Studio to search in pre-release package of NuGet. If you want, you are able to call directly the HTTP endpoint in C#, but the SDK is more simple. So you have to add some usings in your code. This is a simple class that the intent is add this header for authentication in the HTTP request. API key service client credential. These classes are used here when you create a new instance of Text Analytics API. You have to set the Azure region because you are able to create this service on different Azure region. And then you are able to use this client, like detect language or key phrases, okay? Passing some inputs, like this. With this API, you are able to pass a batch input, okay? So you are able to add some inputs and make one single call. Of course, the results are based on these inputs. The first, detect language. New input in one language, like English, and the second in Spanish. So the second example are for extract key phrases. 3 inputs, Japanese, English, and Spanish. And in this case, we have some code to create a sentiment analytics to have the if your sentence is good or bad. Okay. When I build my session, I think about an example of using text analytic on SharePoint. I create this simple scenario. Do you use Office 365, SharePoint Online? Okay. And you create news on your team site? Yes, no? Okay. If you create some news, one of the things you have to think is a choice of an image of your news. If you want to create a good news in SharePoint or in all systems, you have to choose a good image. Okay. This is a little bit complicated because if you take a photo yourself, it's okay. But if you want a professional photo, it's not simple to select this photo and then use your image. But it's possible to use a public repository of royalty-free images like Pixabay or Pexels. Do you know Pixabay or Pexels? No? This is an example of Pixabay site. Okay. For example, I search Madrid. I have a lot of good images of Madrid, for example. Okay. Or if I search Verona, my city. Okay. Or if you search news. Or I don't know, SharePoint. Nothing. Good. Okay. Bad example. Okay. Another site is Pexels, for example. It's similar. It's different repository of photos, but the concept is the same. You have a search. You're able to search by tags, okay, and then you're able to select the image that you want to use. So this site, for example, Pixabay, have an API. An API with authentication. You have to register to Pixabay, for example, and then Pixabay create an access code for you. These API are REST API, of course. All is REST API, and then you are able to use this. So this scenario is you can automate the choice of these images using cognitive service. In which way? Yes. I've built a SharePoint add-in, a great SharePoint add-in, not SPFX, SharePoint hosted add-in, with a great UI, okay, using a great framework that is web form, okay. So this is really a simple demo. If you want to use Angular or SPFX, is not a problem, but don't concentrate to the UI on the UI, but on the functionality. So in this demo, I write title and body of my news. Okay. Then I click on load metadata. This button called the cognitive service for two reasons. The first is to detect the language, and then I have to pass the language to extract metadata from the body of the news. Because I want to extract the tags, the key phrases, okay? Because with these key phrases, I call with the load header image the Pixabay API to get a set of image based on the tag. Okay? I have one example of this news, for example, satellite image on the volcano in Hawaii. Okay. Take some text. Okay. For example. Okay. I click load metadata. I show the code later. So I get only one tag because the Pixabay search works only on one tag at a time. Lava. I clicked on the load header image. Then I call the Pixabay API. And then I'm able to insert news. With the button insert news, I use the PNP extension of client-side object model to provision new modern page. I add some text in the body of the page. I change the title, and then I so I upload to the site asset library the new image, and then I set the header image of the news. So we go to the site pages. We have a satellite image, effect. Okay. If I click here, I show this news. Okay. The text is not formatted. It's not a problem. Okay. If you want, you are able to edit and change the focal point. Okay. If you want to back. Okay. Another example. If you want to create this news about the Porsche first electric car, I add this text. Okay. Load metadata. Wow, development. Load here. No, it's not a good image. Another text, for example. I add. Try this text. No. Another one. This one. Wow. Last. Quantity. No image about mission a concept car. Another one. No. I change this because I want to show the code. Okay. This is a sample image. Okay. Refresh. And then. No. Second. Okay. Okay. So this is a very simple example. Okay. The code. So this is a SharePoint hosted provider hosted add-in. I have to make the permission to full control for simplicity to the site collection, because I create a new page and then I upload new image to the site asset. Okay. When I create the load metadata, I use the text analytics API. For simplicity, I add only one input of the body, so the control of the body of the news. The text analytics service analyzes only the body of the text and not the title, but it's not a problem for a demo. When I create this call, the result is the language of the text. Okay, I call if the language is not empty. I create a new key phrases call, passing the language and the body of the text for extract metadata. And then I get only the first tag. Okay. But if you point here, okay, you have a tropical storm, Eastern Pacific hurricane season, Eastern Pacific season, hurricane aletta category, blah 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 blah. Okay, a lot of key phrases, and then I set this control for English and the first tag. When I click to load either image, I make a call to the Pixabay client. In this case, I use the SDK you get package from Pixabay to call directly in C# the search. I pass my API key, and then I call the search image async for the first tag that I extrapolate from the previous call. And then I load the first image for simplicity. Okay? If I have a result, I set the control either image URL to the image of Pixabay search. And the result is this. Okay? This is a simple demo, but you are able to understand the potentiality of using this kind of API inside SharePoint. This code is possible to host on the Azure function. If you want, you're able to create a SharePoint framework web part, then call this Azure function, analyze text, get images, and whatever you want. Okay. How many people has played with the bot in general or bot framework? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, what is a bot? Bot is an application that user interact in a conversational way. I played with the bot, not bot framework, bot in general, with the first time, I think 2 years ago, with Telegram. Do you know Telegram application? Okay. In Telegram, a lot of bots are not intelligent. Some bots expect a particular word and make something based on this word, but or command like / something. But creating a bot for using in a conversational way it's powerful when the bot understands what you write in your natural language. So, maybe it's possible to send a simple question to the bot, or using dialogues, forms, or complex iteration with some services, like cognitive services, for example. And what is the Azure Bot Service? So the Azure Bot Service is a great service and framework for creating bot inside Azure. Why you must use the Azure Bot Service? You must use the Azure Bot Service because it's very, very, very powerful and simple to use. Simple not, but it's very powerful. With the Azure Bot Service, you have a great abstraction from the channels. So, if you want to create, without the Azure Bot Service, a bot for Teams or for web or Telegram or email or Skype for Business, you have to create a lot of code to interact with Teams API, to emails, to Skype for Business API. But if you use, or Telegram API, but if you use Azure Bot Service, with this channel, you have a great abstraction to implement your bot. You create one time the code, and then you select which channel you want to use. For example, Skype, Skype for Business, Cortana, web chat, or Telegram, if you want, a mail channel. Create a bot that responds at the email. Okay. You have a hosting service inside Azure, and you have a lot of tools that you are able to use to enrich your bot, like Lewis, for example, language understanding service. The goal is start simple and add complexity. Sorry, later. Is not only based on .NET code, for example, but if you want to use Node.js, Node.js is supported by the bot framework. So, how many developers work with JavaScript and Node.js? For the server-side code, great. Okay. So, if you want, you are able to use Node.js for creating the logic of your bot. So, some scenario that you use for thinking about your business. In your business, employee productivity. For example, you are able to create a bot for simplified iteration with your employee, with the interaction with I don't know, search document in SharePoint, or creating some request to simplify the process for your employee. For example, if you want to create a bot to create the holiday request, the bot are able to ask on the employee some information and then process to make the registration inside a list of SharePoint or your CRM, or I don't know, your backend. Or for example, for customer support, to create a bot to automatically respond, for example, an email with a context information on the email of your customer. So if you want, you are able to use Lewis to understand what customer say and then respond appropriately. Bots are not intelligent out of the box. Okay. And then I able to use bot plus cognitive service. So the unification of bot framework and cognitive service is an intelligent bot. So this is demo not work, but I'll show the code. This is another slide, sorry, about enterprise chatbot scenario based on Azure Bot Service and Office 365 API, like Microsoft Graph. Okay, the user use a device or a web app to call the bot, like using Teams on mobile phone or using a web-based chat inside a page in SharePoint. The user is authenticated on Azure Active Directory, and then the Azure Bot Service are able to use cognitive service to understand the input, then call Graph API or Dynamic CRM API to make something and then respond to the user. Take photo.
Thank you.
Okay, Rebecca. So this is a SharePoint scenario about bot. I write here two public SharePoint bot based on Azure bot framework. Okay. The first is SharePoint admin bot by Eric van Rosset. And the second is SharePoint bot. The code is on GitHub. Okay. If you want to test this kind of bot, you are able to download or clone the repository and play with the code. I have the demo that don't work. I have a simple video that I had 10 minutes before my session to an example of the first bot, SharePoint admin bot. I don't know if this video played. No? Ah, okay. This bot is a bot that help admin user to create, for example, a new site inside the SharePoint, reindex the index of the search on a particular site. So create some administrative operation inside SharePoint using a bot. The first thing is authentication. This is a bot outside a page of SharePoint, okay? And the code of this bot have a lot of things about the authentication. This bot use Lewis to understand the sentence that the user write and then extrapolate the action that the user want to do. In this example, the user created a new site. The bot responded on property and the URL. And the user asked to, can you reindex a site collection? Okay. The bot responds, please enter the URL. The user insert the URL of SharePoint, and the bot responds, processing. This time, the bot called the API of SharePoint to reindex the site, and then the site is re-indexed. Can you create a site collection and then another? Some code. 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. I don't know, but today Azure don't help me, because I tried to deploy yesterday and today this bot, but I don't know. I have a big problem with the Lewis cognitive service. I'm not able to deploy all about this bot. But we have some project inside this solution, SharePoint admin bot. The first project is Outbot, is a web application with logics to authenticate based on Azure Active Directory. This is the logic. SharePoint admin bot is a website that implemented the logic through the API controller, okay, to implement the logic of the bot. And then I have another project, SharePoint admin bot.infra, that implements some classes for extend the forms inside a bot. The core is a message controller inside the SharePoint admin bot. You have a post action on the message controller. We have a lot of code to catch the request of the, for example, of the single channel, like web chat. Is an example, or if I add a new channel like email or like Teams bot, is the same. The channel called this action method, and then I implement here my logic. The first logic is to respond with a master dialog. Master dialog is a class that implements all logic about the conversation with the bot and the user. So, for example, if the message is equal logout or reset, you have to call the context.logout for logout the session, or if we have a lot of if-else. If-else, another is Lewis dialog. This is a dialog, a way to interact to the user that use the Lewis, language understanding service in cognitive service. So, in this case, in Lewis, I'm not able to show the Lewis portal because I don't deploy all inside the portal. We have some information about the intent, like get info, create, and other things. So, when the user call create a new site collection, the intent is create in Lewis. In which entities? Site collection, for example, or site. In this case, the call is from the bot to the Lewis. Lewis understands the intent of create, and then the entities about create site or site collection, and then the Lewis call back to the this method. Okay, 1 minute. This method call another another form dialog. Go to definition. Like no, definition. Create. Okay. We have a definition of the form. With the bot framework, you have a lot of objects to create some object to inform the bot how things have to ask to the user. Like, for example, if you want to create a site collection, I need the title of the site collection, and then another fields like the storage, the resources, and the site template. Okay. If you have different channel, this kind of dialog is rendered in different way, like a card inside a Skype for business, for example, or in the web chat, or in different way in another channel. Okay. And then this user are 1 minute again. Some code to create site collection. Okay, for example, for index, use a SharePoint info helper to make the reindex of the site collection based on the input of the user. Okay, so in this scenario, we use the bot framework with the client-side object model to interact with the user, and then call the SharePoint using client object model. Okay, we have finished, and it's the time to hit something.
Yeah.
And if you have some question, I'm here to respond to you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.